All right, let's get right into it. When you think about China's tech prowess, you think of some pretty incredible stuff, right? We're talking high-speed bullet trains, their own space station, massive 5G networks. They're a giant. But there's this one critical piece of software deep in the heart of the tech world that they just can't seem to master.
So that's the big question we're tackling today. What is this mystery software? It's something you've probably never even heard of, but it's absolutely vital for every single microchip made today. And for China, not being able to make it, well, that's a huge vulnerability. It's a technological choke point.
And the answer is electronic design automation, or EDA. Now here's the best way to think about it. If a chip is a sprawling city, EDA software is the blueprint, the zoning plan, the traffic simulation, and the architectural tools all rolled into one. Trying to design a modern chip without it? It's like trying to build a skyscraper without any blueprints. It's just not possible. Bottom line, no EDA, no modern chips. Period.
So even though this software flies completely under the radar for most of us, it is the invisible blueprint where basically all of today's tech innovation gets started.
But who actually makes this stuff? You'd think a market this important would have tons of players, right? Well, you'd be wrong. It turns out this whole space is run by just a handful of absolute giants.
And when I say a handful, I mean it. This isn't really a competitive market. It's a triopoly. Look at this. Just 3 companies, Synopsys, Cadence, and Siemens EDA, control almost 75% of the entire world's market. This didn't happen by accident. This is the result of decades of brutal competition, buyouts, and consolidation.
This quote from one of our sources really just says it all. For the actual engineers on the ground at places like TSMC, Samsung, or Intel, these software suites aren't just, a nice-to-have. They're as essential as oxygen. It's the air they breathe, professionally speaking.
So why is it so hard for anyone else to break in? Well, the complexity is just mind-boggling. We are talking about millions upon millions of lines of code that have been tweaked and perfected for over 30 years, and it never stops. Just when they figure something out, the chip technology itself leaps forward to something insane like 3-nanometer transistors, and the EDA software has to keep up. It's a relentless, incredibly expensive race.
And this is where things get really intense. This software dominance isn't just a business advantage anymore. In the world of geopolitics, it's become a weapon. It is, for all intents and purposes, a kill switch.
And you can see just how fast the US decided to use that weapon. It started back in 2019 with bans on hardware for companies like Huawei. But then the strategy shifted. By late 2022, the US was targeting the EDA tools themselves, specifically for the most advanced chips. And then the hammer really dropped, with orders going out to the EDA giants to basically halt all sales and support to China. They found the choke point, and they squeezed.
The financial hit was massive. For Synopsys alone, the Chinese market was worth about $1 billion in 2024. That's 16% of their entire global revenue. Gone, just like that.
And it's a very similar story for their biggest rival, Cadence. For them, it was about $550 million, or 12% of their total business. Not small change.
So, what happens when the US government essentially vaporizes a $1 billion revenue stream overnight? The market panics. The stock prices for these giants took an immediate and painful nosedive.
So with its back against the wall, what did China do? It didn't just give up. It went all in on its own domestic contender, a company chosen to lead this fight for technological independence, its national champion, Empyrean.
Now, to really grasp the scale of the fight ahead of them, let's start with Empyrean's revenue from 2024. It was about $170 million US. Just kind of keep that number in your head for a second. Because this chart tells the whole story. On the far left, you've got Empyrean with its $170 million, and on the right, Cadence at over $4 billion, and Synopsys at over $6 billion. This isn't just a competition. This is a classic, textbook David versus Goliath story. The gap is just enormous.
So what can Empyrean actually do? I mean, to its credit, it's developed a pretty solid platform for what's called analog chip design. That's things like power management circuits. It's got simulation tools, manufacturing tools, and it even claims it can handle some more complex digital designs down to the 7-nanometer level. But the key word there, and it's a big one, is partial. It doesn't have the whole shebang, the complete high-end workflow you need for the really advanced stuff.
And that brings us to the final hard reality of the situation. For Empyrean, and by extension for China, this isn't just a challenge. It is a monumental uphill battle.
Let's just break it down with a little scorecard. For analog design, yeah, Empyrean is strong, and it's got a growing user base inside China. But for advanced digital design, the stuff you need to make modern CPUs and GPUs, it's still incomplete. That's the giant's territory. Those are their crown jewels. And then there's the ecosystem. The big guys are woven into the fabric of every major chip factory on the planet. Empyrean? It's pretty much limited to China. And then, things got personal. In December 2024, the US stopped just targeting the industry and sanctioned Empyrean directly, putting the company itself on the trade blacklist. Empyrean's reaction was to run even faster towards the government, basically becoming an arm of the Chinese state.
And so we end not with a simple answer, but with the huge, unresolved question at the very heart of this tech war. Can a company like Empyrean, a national champion, literally born out of a crisis and fueled by pure necessity, actually close a technology gap that its competitors spent more than 30 years building? The answer to that is going to define the next decade of technology.